When you taste a strawberry or feel a sudden wave of sadness, you are engaging with the raw material of subjective reality. It is the undeniable fact that it feels like something to be you, a continuous, vivid, first-person movie playing out in your mind. Yet that entire internal movie is generated by this, a dark, silent lump of physical matter. This presents the ultimate frontier of neuroscience, trying to explain how 1.4 kilograms of fat, water, and proteins, completely isolated inside the skull, somehow produces the light of subjective experience. The philosopher David Chalmers divided this study into two categories. He classified the mapping of how the brain processes information, reacts to stimuli, and controls behavior as the easy problems. Then there is the hard problem, the profound, unresolved question of why and how those physical processes are accompanied by a subjective feeling at all. We are rapidly mastering the physical machinery of the brain, but the actual phenomenon of experiencing life remains an absolute mystery. Modern science has achieved extraordinary success in mapping the specific biological infrastructure required to keep the lights on in that machinery. At the base of the brain lies the reticular activating system. This acts as the biological power switch, regulating raw wakefulness and arousal. When you are awake, incoming sensory information from the body is actively routed upward into a central relay station called the thalamus. From there, those signals are broadcast across the cerebral cortex, the wrinkled outer layer that houses the actual contents and specific sensory experiences of consciousness. Within that architecture operates the default mode network, a specific set of neural pathways responsible for generating the unified feeling of a self. The continuous sense of being you is an active hallucination maintained by the brain's predictive processing algorithms. We know this because specific chemical compounds, like psychedelics, can temporarily deactivate the default mode network. When this happens, users experience total ego dissolution, completely losing their sense of identity. The fact that your sense of self can be biologically turned off while your brain remains awake proves that the you inside your head is a constructed mechanism. Mapping that biological mechanism has allowed clinical neuroscience to pull the study of consciousness out of abstract philosophy and subject it to empirical data. Through the use of functional imaging, doctors can track blood flow to active neural regions. This has revealed that up to 20% of clinically vegetative patients harbor hidden conscious awareness, answering commands purely through brain activity. That capability laid the groundwork for a monumental leap in measurement, the Perturbational Complexity Index, or PCI. The PCI process involves zapping the brain with a highly localized magnetic pulse and recording the electrical echo that cascades through the neural pathways. As this chart details, that complex echo yields a definitive, measurable score of consciousness, reliably separating a conscious brain from an unconscious one. The mathematics provide a strict threshold. Any score calculated above 0.31 definitively proves the presence of consciousness. This threshold remains accurate whether the brain is in a state of wakefulness, vivid dreaming, or deep anesthesia. Science has reduced the invisible spark of the human mind into a reliable mathematical output. Yet, despite the precision of our anatomical maps and mathematical indices, the hard problem remains completely untouched. We arrive at the explanatory gap, the absolute barrier between objective scientific data and the subjective properties of experience, known as qualia. We can precisely map the exact sequence of neurons firing when a specific wavelength of blue light strikes an optical receptor, but no functional scan and no mathematical equation can explain the subjective feeling of seeing the color blue. This limitation creates the problem of other minds. Because you can only access your own internal reality, you cannot objectively prove that anyone else is actually experiencing consciousness. We observe the correct neurological substrates in countless species across the animal kingdom, yet the nature of their subjective experience remains totally inaccessible to us. As artificial intelligence continues to scale in complexity, we face the reality that a highly advanced synthetic network could cross that threshold, and we would have no way to prove if it feels alive inside. We successfully mapped the brain's machinery and reverse-engineered the illusion of the self. The silent observer witnessing it remains the universe's greatest mystery.